Hello, so this is going to be a tier list video because everybody likes tiers and everybody likes lists. So I thought I'd join in with the latest craze that is probably very outdated by now. So this one is just going to be mouse manufacturers. So if I've used one of their mice and they have made a mouse, I will rate them on this list. I'll have some examples, and what I'll probably do a bit later is probably do one on the individual mice, but this is going to be judgment on most of their mice that are available now, what I think of them as a brand, and you know, all that lot. So it'll probably be a little bit more ranty. I've got a lot of pent up emotions, so there'll probably be quite a bit of rants going on. Obviously, though, I've got to try and keep it, one, friendly to everybody, and two, I've also got to try and keep it within a reasonable time scale. So, first one that I'm going to do on my tier list, this is in no particular order, because I kind of want to leave the best to last. So, Cooler Master are a B tier brand. They make very good mice that always have something wrong with them, I feel. There's always something either missing, there's always something that's massively broken, and every time I use one of their mice, I am left with nothing but disappointment at what could have been. They could be one of the leading brands in gaming mice, but they always just seem to make a mistake. A case in point is the Master Mouse 731, which I absolutely loved. It's got a great shape, it's got a great coating, great switches, everything about this is great, but the scroll wheel is not attached to, well, the rubber is not attached to the wheel. You can scroll it without the actual scroll wheel moving. And again, it's just a massive oversight. And obviously there was the whole release where there was massive input delay. So it just seems to be a constant thing with them, where every product they bring out, there's always sort of like a downside. So whenever they announce something, there's always that a bit of excitement, but a bit reserved, because you're like, what are they going to do wrong this time? You know, it's like getting a really delicious burger. It looks delicious. You take a bite into it and then you find out that the lettuce is rotten or something, you know? It's like everything else is good and it's just let down by one thing. And you're just like, oh, that kind of sucks, because that would have been really nice if the lettuce wasn't rotten. So that's basically what I think of them. They make rotten lettuce if they made a burger. The next one, I'm going to do Asus for the next one. Now, Asus have two sub-brands. They have ROG, so Republic of Gamers, and they have TUF. Why they have that, I have no idea. But they're a D tier brand, and it's D tier because they make some shockers, but they also make some not shockers, and it doesn't really make sense, and that's why I put them that low. They have potential because, well, as an example, I have the M4 Air, which is like 47 grams. It's a really good mouse. I really like it. It's pretty well priced as well. It ticks a load of boxes. It's got a similar shape to a Superlight. It's quite well made, and I feel like it just does a lot of things right, and I think it's good. However, they made the Pugio 2, which is a pretty terrible mouse in terms of there's just like a lot of different plastic textures on the mouse, like loads of little engravings and stuff, and just like a load of nonsense features, and it's got terrible mouse feet. They made the ROG Keris, which was also a good mouse, but it's got terrible wireless performance. I think they make a version of this. I think there's like another one, which is like called the M5, which just looks absolutely hideous. So this is just a brand that's having an identity crisis, I think. And if they got this, you know, if they got themselves together, maybe just took a good hard look in the mirror like I do every morning, maybe they could find out what they really want in life. I mean, in making gaming mice. Because this is a good mouse. And if they made more of these mice, and different variations of this mice, and mice with the same sort of quality and design and idea behind them, then it could be a good brand. But this seems to be the only good thing that they've made that I'd actually recommend people as well. So that's why they are a D tier brand. I'm going to save some of the biggest brands to last just because I like controversy. Actually, I might spread them out a bit. Next up is Nixius, who are... I put them in the E tier. I don't even think I've got any of their mice. I might put one up on screen. But they made something called the Nixius Revel Fit, which was a MX518 clone. I do believe they've got an updated Revel as well, but it doesn't seem to be widely available. This is like an E-tier brand. There was like a moment where they brought out quite a few mice at the same time, and there was a bit of buzz because they were pretty well made, had really good sensors for the time, and then they just kind of like disappeared. They just fluttered out. But as a brand that I've used, it's a mouse that I've used, and it was for a duration a mouse that I feel was quite popular, and quite a few people actually were interested in getting one. Next up is Ninjutsu. I'd put this in B just because they make decent products, but they're just not good enough. It feels like they also suffer from an identity crisis, or maybe there's just doesn't seem to be as much laser focus in their products. The Ninjutsu Origin 1X, the first one that came out, just had a pretty poor coating. It also had the USB charging port was so tight, so getting the default cable that came with it into the charging port, you probably had to push it in. So it felt like very, very dodgy to use. The Katana Superlight, which is what I'm using now as my main, is actually pretty decent. However, it does have this weird magnetic charging port, which means I've got to plug in an extra unnecessary cable into my PC. And I do not like that. I hate it. I just want everything to be USB Type-C because it's easier for me. It's easier for me to how I work, because everything on my desk uses USB Type-C apart from one thing, which is my iPhone. So there's only 2 cables required, and this now requires an extra third cable, and it does my nut in. That's probably really like the only main downside. It's not got a great sensor in it. I don't think it's got a 3370. I think it's got the 3335 off the top of my head. No, it has got a 3370. I think it's maybe the switches has got 4.0s. Anyway, everything else on this mouse is actually pretty good. I love the shape. The design's pretty solid. So if they continued making mice like these, they will creep up the tier list 100%. But get rid of this stupid magnetic charging port, please. I'm begging you. I hate it. It's not on. So yeah, they're definitely one to look out for. Next is one that will supersede them, a similar kind of timeline as them, which is Pulsar, which I am going to put into A at the moment, just because every mouse that they have brought out have been really good. The Pulsar X Lite, the original one, was a fantastic mouse, like their first mouse that they brought out, and then they were like, hey, we're going to bring out a V2. Was there a need for a V2? No, there was not. But they brought a V2 out anyway because they removed all the holes in the sides here and a few other minor adjustments. And it was just not needed, but they did it. And it's something that's really, really good because it's like, hey, everybody's asked, giving us this feedback. All right, we'll work on it. And they did. They're bringing out a symmetrical one, which I can't remember the name of, but I have requested for one to be sent out to me, but it hasn't yet, which is really annoying. But everything that they've sent and I've received of theirs has been very high quality, from dongle ports, the extension cable, all the cables have been nice. Just everything that they've given is great. I'm not a fan of the feet, but this isn't a feet review. This is just based on their gaming mice. I could spend a lot of time talking about the the Super Glides, but I won't. But yeah, this is just these are very, very good mice. I'm very impressed, and I really hope that they continue in their upwards trajectory, because they will definitely be a higher tier brand, and they're also very well priced as well. That's another thing about Ninjutsu being here, is that their products are actually pretty well priced as well. So they definitely deserve their placement. I feel it's just that they haven't made enough mice to warrant being up there with the big boys, I feel. Let's get some of the obvious ones out of the way. Logitech S tier. The Superlight is an incredible mouse. The G Pro Wireless, I feel, is a legendary mouse, because I just feel like this was the G Pro Wireless and the Superlight, I feel is like the best shapes in gaming mice that I've seen. They've absolutely nailed a symmetrical design. So many people use these as well. They're so popular in pro games. Pro esports. So there's so many Counter-Strike players, Valorant players that use these mice, and for good reason. I just think they're almost perfect. The Superlight obviously could have done with a USB Type-C, but that's it. I'm not going to be that sad over it. I should do, really, because I was talking about that from the Ninjutsu Katana, but never mind. I just think most of their mice have been really good, from the G502, the G Pro, the G Pro, so not the wireless version. There was a wired one which has a bit of a different shape. Those were really good. The G305, even though I'm not a fan of the shape, they are still good mice. They're reasonably priced. Even though the G Pro Wireless and Superlight are a bit expensive, you are getting a good product for what you pay for. So I think overall they are definitely an S tier brand. The next one as well is obviously Razer. These guys are pretty much also the same kind of like tier. However, if the Viper, so the Razer Viper Ultimate V2, 8K and all that lot, if those didn't exist, I would put them as A, just because some of the mice before the V2 Pro I thought were absolutely horrendous in terms of usability. It was mainly, I think it was the Death Adder Elite, where there was like this whole pro driver rubbish, and I just absolutely hated their products for it. And some of them were just like really, really below quality. Honestly, if the Viper V2 didn't come out, I think I would still put them in A, because the Razer Viper, the regular one, and the Viper Mini both had mushy right clicks. However, having said that, I'm going to backtrack again, because the Razer Orochi V2 is also one of my favorite mice, just because of how simple it is. And same with the Basilisk as well. That's also actually a pretty decent mice. So I will take back what I said. Those two mice do bring them back to the S tier, just because I'm a big fan of their simplicity and cost efficiency as well. So, you know, there's going to be a lot of flip-flopping in this video. Trust me, it's not going to end there. Sometimes when I speak, I'm very good at talking myself out of a decision I've made. Next up, this is a very tricky one. It's Steel Series. Steel Series can be anywhere from the bin to C. I'm going to put them at D. They don't deserve to be as high as C. They deserve to be at D, but they don't deserve to be in the bin. The only reason why I wouldn't put them in the bin is because I love the Prime Wireless. The shape. And that's it. That's the only part I love of it. Actually, the switches are nice. There's a lot of things that I do like the scroll. You know, okay, look, right. I really do like this mouse. However, it's very expensive. The sensor does not warrant that price either. They're just overpriced products, I feel, at the moment, and you're not getting a good or a fantastic product for it. When you pay for a Superlight or you pay for the Viper V2 Pro, you're paying a lot of money and you're getting a really good product for it. When you buy a Prime Wireless, you are paying a lot of money, but you're getting arguably not as much of a good product, especially in terms of sensor performance and stuff like that. So I just can't put them in the same kind of playing field. Steel Series, they used to do fantastic mice when they had the Ikari, the Sensei, the Kinzu, but I mean, honestly, the Prime Wireless is the only mouse of theirs that I have liked in recently from them. The Aerox series, I absolutely hate. Their cables are often like absolutely god awful. The sensors again are also like really below par. So there's just so many things in these mice that they bring out that are just so poor. I think I had the Rival 310, the Sensei 310, same thing for both of them. They're just both terrible mice. Oh, and there was the Rival 700. For those that may not know, the Rival 700 basically had an LED screen next to the mouse, like here, so you could have something displayed there. It was awful. Oh man, it's a joke. it just annoys me thinking about it now, because someone at SteelSeries got paid money. This went through quality control, it went through its design phase, and not one person thought, do we really think it's a good idea to have an LED display on the side of the mouse? It's like when someone's playing a game, like, they're not going to go like this, are they? They go, oh yeah, I am low HP. Or, oh yeah, my gun does only my gun's got half ammo, I need to reload. That's not what anyone's going to use it for. What I used it for was to, I can't say what image I displayed on the side of the mouse, but it wasn't friendly for a video like this. I'm trying to keep it as reasonable as possible. But, you know, basically, they just bring out some terrible ideas. So that's why they're there. Next up is Roccat. Now, Roccat are a frustrating company, and they're just like Cooler Master to me, because they do create some really good mice, but again, they suffer the same fate where they do something to them, or they just seem to poop themselves. Like, the Cone Pro Air is a really good mouse. I love the shape. It's got a good weight. However, the switches are just like really, really bad. Like, this one has got a really mushy right click now. It's awful. It's absolutely dreadful. Like, when I wanted to use it again, like literally after a day, it started getting this, and it was such a shame, because everything on this mouse has been really good. The coating is a bit sticky, but there's just so many things about their mice that they bring out are really good. The Burst series are great ambidextrous mice. The Burst Core is like a really cheap mouse. I think it is about $30, and it's fantastic for that price. So they do some really good products, but they're always just let down, and they made their own switch for these ones. It's the Titan optical switch, and I just think that the switch is just terrible. I feel like unless you're really going to nail the switch and make something that's absolutely gonna like really rival some of the best switches that you could get, like, or even just an Omron switch, just don't make them. And I feel like that's what has massively let them down, which is unfortunate, because they do some great products. Next up is Glorious. Glorious are a B tier brand as well. The main reason behind this, or the reason why I think they are B tier, is because they still have a few issues with quality. At least for me, their mice have had some questionable quality decisions, and they still sort of like have this incredibly like cheap look and feeling products on their mice, which is weird because their keyboards are quite high quality, but their mice still feel like they've been picked out of a catalog and just had their logo put onto them. And they're just not, I mean, they're close. The thing is, they are very close to A. I love the Model I, which is the G502 clone. I think this is one of the best mice that has come out recently in terms of being a fantastic mouse that's comfortable. That's actually got some good functions with being able to change and remove the side buttons. It's lightweight as well. So honestly, it's a very, very good mouse. I was very surprised with it. So I think they just need to bring out more mice like these. I feel like the Model D and the Model O, it just seems like a variation of the same mouse that loads of companies have bought out. There's nothing really that unique. But the Model I is a unique mouse that has got unique features that are actually good. So I feel like they are close to being an A and above, but I feel like they really have to up their quality and polish on their mouse. On their mice. I have seen some of their new ones, which is from that is it Forge, the Glorious Forge, which look a lot better and a lot more polished. So if those are the designs that they are pushing out going forward, then it could be very good for them. So it could actually, you know, my thoughts for them could turn around massively. Next up is HyperX, which I'm going to put in C, just because their mice kind of fall into the same category as Glorious. They don't, I mean, the Pulsefire Haste is a really good mouse, and I really do like it. But the wireless version is a bit expensive from what I've seen. So I'm going to have to put them into C. I haven't seen enough of them yet for them to be like considered B or A. If they continue bringing out mice at the same quality as the Haste, then they could probably definitely creep up. But at the moment, I've just personally not seen, or I'm not convinced by them just yet. Next up is Corsair. They are also a C tier brand, D tier brand. Yeah, I'm going to have to put them in D, because the Sabre series of mice, so it's the wireless and the wired version. I've done a review on this one recently. They are good-ish. There's a lot of issues, or there's a few like minor issues that are holding them back that could make them a lot better, that they just need a lot more polish. And it's probably like the first mouse of theirs that they've brought out that I actually thought, that doesn't look like it's going to be terrible to hold. And like when you go for the product pages, it's also like one of the few mice that doesn't have additional weights that you can have added on, that doesn't have like some sort of weird double feature as being able to work out as a drone or something like that. So they're, you know, contained, they're polished, they're to the point, and they're not trying to impress everybody. Like I always consider their mice would be really good to buy for an 8-year-old, because it looks like a spaceship. Whereas, you know, these days you just want a mouse that's going to be reliable and performs. You don't care how your mouse looks. I don't care about RGB. And this is a mouse that, so the Sabre is actually a mouse that where they've kind of put a bit of restraint on themselves when designing it. So it's not enough for me yet. It could be enough. Next up is Extrafy, which I'm going to put in A, because their mice, the M42, the M4, I've not used the Rocket Jump Ninja mouse, but they have been really good, high quality mice with holes in them, that are very simple. And they've also tried things. So with the M42, the wired version, you had replaceable backs. The wireless version, they got rid of that and made it so you had to screw in the backs, which I wasn't a fan of. So there are some good things. They are trying things. They are, you know, when they bring out a mouse, they're sort of seeing if there's something different that they can do. So I respect that, because I think as a whole their products are pretty decent. They do not require software at all, and you get quite a bit of customization, which means nothing to me, but for the general person it might mean something. So I've got to, you know, put away my biases. They've got great designs, a great color set, which again isn't really that important to me at all, and I don't really care, but still, I like their mice, I like their products, they have good quality behind them, so they deserve to be an A. I feel like maybe they could be an S tier brand if they maybe if they had a bit more focus. I think maybe in like a year or two time, if they've sort of decided what they want their mice to be like in terms of customization and stuff, then they could be definitely an S tier brand. They're close enough anyway. I think it's just that some of the changes that they've made with the wireless versions, I've just not been a fan of. I just preferred the magnetic swappable backs, and removing that has removed like a very convenient feature, I felt. So that's why I'm gonna have to bring them down a bit. Next is Fnatic. Now I am putting them in C, just because they have only really made one mouse that is of note. I have got their flick mouse, their clutch mice. I don't think they're buyable anymore. I think one of them is, which is also why they're C, because their previous mice before the bolt were very mediocre. I owned 2 of them. The cables were terrible, the shapes were alright, the coating was terrible. To be fair to them, I do believe that they bought an existing brand, so they actually bought a company to make their stuff for them, and maybe this is the bolt as a result of them like transitioning and making their own stuff. And the bolt is a very good mouse. It's got a lot of high tier stuff in it. I've heard that the side buttons are a bit sketchy, but I personally had no problems with mine. The whole thing was great. I just wish that they bring out more like them, with probably better sizes and better shapes that are a little bit more friendly universally, because I think the only problem that I had with the Bolt is it's like a Viper Mini shape. And well, I think Razer said like a couple of months ago that the Razer Viper Mini isn't actually that popular despite a lot of people wanting it. So I feel like they went for a very niche size there. But, you know, it's their decision. I respect that. But they could definitely creep up this list with every single new mouse that they bring out, as long as it has the same quality as the Bolt. I just can't really sort of put them in A tier or B tier just because of one mouse. It seems a bit silly, especially when the previous mice were a bit garbage. Okay, actually, I'm gonna get these guys out of the way, which is Cougar. Now, this is like a German brand that a lot of people haven't heard of. I do have one of their mice, but it's at the bottom of my mice box, which have a lot of mice in them, and I really don't want to go into the bottom of it, because that's where the Cougar mice currently reside, and I'd have to empty the whole box to try and find them. And honestly, they are not worth that time. That also falls in line with another mouse that you might see at the bottom of the list. Some people might already know which one I'm talking about. However, they make mice that are similar to Corsair designs, where they look like robots, except they do it a lot worse. They actually do have a mouse, I think it's called the Airblade, that looked pretty good, and I'm tempted to buy it, but I can't seem to get much info on availability. It only weighs 67 grams. It looks really dumb. It looks like in Batman, which Batman was it? I think it was the Dark Knight, where he has that motorbike with the two big front wheels. It kind of looks like something like that. You have to Google it, or bring up a picture anyway so you can see it, if I remember in editing, so you get an idea. If it doesn't look like that, I'm sorry. It's my imagination off the top of my head. So yeah, it's I just thought I had to add it in there because you can still buy their products. The next one is Endgame Gear, and they are literally in between A and B. Now they've only made one mouse, which is the XM1. They've made the XM1 and the XM1R, and they're making a wireless version. However, this is probably one of the cleanest mice that I've ever used and looked at. It's so polished, it's so well made. Everything on it is like really high quality, and I think that's why I'm putting them in A, because the first one was okay, but the cable was a bit iffy, and then this one is just like done really well. I'm not a fan of the shape. I don't like the shape, but I love how solid this mouse is. It is such a great product, and I really just want them to bring out the wireless mouse. And I'd only put them, it seems a bit weird for me to put them in A when they've only just made two mice, and I've put Fnatic in C and they've only made one mouse. But it's because the quality of this mouse to me is just superb. It is just such a polished mouse. I feel like you'll only really understand it if you own one, because it's so clean, it's so like well made, well designed, and it just oozes quality. You know, it's something that's really hard to describe. If you own one, you might feel the same. If you don't, fight me. But I'm gonna have to put them in A for that. And the new one, the wireless version, does seem pretty exciting when they ever release it. Now, the first company that is going into the bin is going to be Ninox. I do not need to mention much more about this, but they brought out two mice, the Aura and the Venator. They were both absolutely terrible. The Aura was a mouse where if you plugged the mouse in and installed the firmware, it would brick your mouse. So that's how fantastic it was. It was basically a mouse that was designed around the Quake community and took forever to come out. I have bought 3 of them. 2 of them are completely broken. I have one which is again in the bottom of my in my mouse box, which I do not want to get out. But people have offered me over £100 for this mouse, which is bizarre, but I'm going to keep it because it's a part of history. It's a lesson to everyone to like really help them know that not everyone can make a mouse. I'll leave you with this minor bit of information. I think there was another mouse that was going to come out, which was going to have modular backs, so you could swap the back out with whatever you want, basically, or the shape. It was something along those lines. There was a Kickstarter started for this. I'm going to see if I can find it, actually. The Ninox Astrum. this campaign is closed. So they raised almost £75,000 for this. 13 different mice in one lightweight package. So it was going to be constantly under 80 grams, a decent sensor for the time. This was their third mouse. So you would essentially be, this is basically what it was going to look like. You have these different designs, you can have different sides and all this lot. It was going to be very modular, and essentially you could just create your own design at some point. It angers me to talk about this mouse, but this has basically just been dead. The only way that this is going to come out, I will link this in a description, just because it's quite interesting, because it's been so long. Where are the comments? Here we go. Updates, 28 updates. Last one was 26th of May 2022. Essentially, the only reason why, or the only way that this can get made, is if they sold enough keyboards. They were basically going to bring out some keyboards, which was just some like OEM standard factory keyboard called Erasum, and if they sold enough, then they would be able to make the mouse. I'm definitely cutting this story very short, because I'm just trying to not spend too long on this, because this pretty much deserves a video on its own. But it's always great to read the comments if you want to have a laugh, because unfortunately there's a lot of people that are still wanting this mouse. Basically, you can't get refunds for this. I might, if there's interest, do a whole video summarizing this, because it is just very interesting. But essentially, this is all as a result of the brand Linux, so that's why they're in the bin, because this is like overpromise and just never deliver. Oh, there's only 4 left. Next up is G-Wolves. I'm going to put these in C, because their mice have been pretty good. However, the ones I've used have been and felt very cheap. They are bringing out some interesting mice. However, the availability on them seems very sparse. And I kind of feel like if your availability is weak and, you know, you just don't make your products available, I can't really rate you as a company, which is just my like thoughts behind it. It's like, for example, I mean, Fnatic bring out a mouse. They make it as available as possible for the masses. Same with Glorious, same with Ninjutsu, same with Pulsar. I've never had any problems getting hold of their mice, but G-Wolves mice I seem to have a problem getting hold of, and it's very frustrating because I want to use them. They do bring out some very interesting mice. They've got some fingertip mice. I believe they're trying to make one out of metal or a metal alloy or something like that. But they seem to be pushing further into a influencer brand where they kind of charge or make their mice a lot more expensive than they need to be, and rely on influencers to like make people want to buy their mice more. Which leads me into the next brand, because G-Wolves are not as bad as the next brand that are going into the bin, and that is Finalmouse. Now, I've used 3 Finalmouse mice in my time. I've used the Ergo 2, the Scream 1, and I can't remember what their other first mouse was. They were all terrible. They all had something wrong with them. They all took ages to arrive. They were all expensive. And now their mice are made out of a magnesium alloy or something, and they are still incredibly expensive. They all look like they have been picked out of a catalogue as well. So they don't even look polished. They don't even look good. I mean, they look like maybe a Ford Fiesta or a Nissan Sunny. Like a cheap car that has just got a really nice paint job. You know on Pimp My Ride, where they used to take people's absolute garbage cars and just cover them in paint to make them look good? That's kind of what I get with Finalmouse. They are also a brand that make their products are incredibly hard to get. You have to pay an obscene amount of money to get them, like maybe about $180 for it as well. From what I have seen from some of the newer releases, the build quality is also pretty suspect, but they also seem to again just rely on influencers either buying their product or giving their products to influencers, so then all their fans will be like, oh my god, I want the same mouse as you, let me buy one. And they just seem to sell out in instant for some reason. But it's weird because I know people that have all kinds of mice on this list from all of these different brands. I know people that have got G-Wolves mice. I know people that have got HyperX mice, Asus mice, even a Nixius mouse. But I do not know anyone that still uses a Finalmouse mouse. And also, they literally made a video game which was just a terrible mobile game port, or it looked like one, onto PC. So you could get one of their mice that you could only buy if you were in like the top 0.1% of playing this game. And you had to buy the game, so you had to pay $30 to buy the game, which would then put you into a pot where you could then buy the mouse, or you win the mouse. I can't remember which one. Anyway, it was a joke. It's a travesty. They make some, and maybe their products are good, but I can't tell if their products are good if I can't buy one, because they're always out of stock. And the only way that I can buy them is if I go on eBay and pay some extortionate amount for a scalped version. So I feel like, again, it's the same thing for G-Wolves. I feel if you make your products incredibly hard for people to try, then, you know, don't blame me for putting you so low down on the list, especially when the only ones that I have been able to try are hot garbage. I think I tried some of their Cape Town ones as well that are also terrible. Their Twitter is just some sort of egotistical tirade as well, so they are just everything wrong with gaming mice. I feel these days they are a terrible, you know, it's like an energy drink, a niche energy drink brand, where it feels like they are just going to advertise that their products are going to change your life when it's just a gaming mouse. Stop trying to make it seem like anything different. So yeah, I'm quite passionate about this subject as well, to be honest, so it's a bit personal, I'll admit. This could change. This could change if they bring out a mouse and they go, hey, let's actually make a mouse that everybody can buy, and let's put it at a reasonable price point, and then they can see what we're truly made of. But they're not doing that, so I can't try it. Anyway, next up is ZOWIE and Vaxi. Now, I've left these two for last for one very key reason, and that is that they are literally the same company, it feels like. They just do different shape in mice, and they feel like the same company because they've got the same terrible scroll wheel. So these are both going B. Controversial, I know, to put them in a B tier, considering ZOWIE at least are a legendary company. However, 4 years ago or 3 years ago, they would have been S tier 100%, because they make fantastic mice. They still make, well, at the time, they make fantastic mice, and at the time, they were truly far and above the best. They were incredibly comfortable, they were incredibly simple, they were very well made and high quality. You felt like you're getting a high quality finished product, and you had such a large array of different shapes to find and to choose from that you could pretty much find a mouse that was suitable for your hand, and they were brilliant. However, that hasn't changed in the past 4 years, and in the past 4 years you've got better sensors, better switches, there's like better cables, better mouse feet that have all existed in every single brand on this list apart from ZOWIE. So that's why they are B tier, and that's why Vaxi are in the same place as well. Because even though, again, they still make mice with fantastic shapes that are really good for comfort, there's just so many parts of their mice that are just far behind. Like non-wireless versions, mouse feet are still a bit dodgy on some of them, I think. Like maybe some of them are still just not even using 100% PTFE. I can't remember off the top of my head which one it was. The only new things that they seem to come out is different colours. And their scroll wheels are dreadful. Now you may be thinking it's just a scroll wheel. However, I play Apex Legends a lot. I use the scroll wheel a lot. I use the scroll wheel a lot in all of my games. It's like a very extra handy extra bind. If you don't use the scroll wheel for anything in your games, just try it for jumping as a starting point. And these scroll wheels are horrendous, and they are just not up to a high standard anymore. So that's why they're only B tier. Sort it out. You're a disgrace. They're not a disgrace. I still really like their products. Vaxi, you know, I just wish that they sort of updated everything, because if they updated everything, they'd completely change the scape of gaming mice again, and you'd have an extra bar raised to. Well, actually, as I finish this list, to like my final notes is, you know, it's good that we've got new brands, or I feel that there's new brands that are able to come out with great products. Glorious, Ninjitsu, Pulsar, Extrafy, Endgame Gear, Vaxi, Fnatic as well. G-Wolves, I think, could probably just keep on moving up. Oh, if I could get hold of one of their mice. They're all like really good upcoming brands that in like maybe just like a few more mice time could again help change everything. And it's the same thing that applies to ZOWIE. They were a trendsetter. They raised the bar. Wireless versions of their mice could raise the bar even further. So it's just good for a consumer point of view that we get more choice, we get more variations, everybody can find a mouse that they enjoy. And it also gives me to spend an inconceivable amount of money on more gaming mice that ends up in one big box. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this tier list. Let me know what you think. I hope you enjoyed. There will be a tier list where I'll look at mice individually. I think I might do it providing that they're still purchasable. So this list will expand even further. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments box below. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you very much if you listened and watched through all of it.